All right, so you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Today we're tackling something a little different. 15 habits that make people dislike you. Sounds a bit harsh, right?
It does, a bit.
But I think framing it in terms of self-awareness, understanding how these habits might be affecting our relationships, that's actually pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, sometimes we just need a little reality check. See those things we might be doing that, well, push people away.
Right. So we're digging into this article, same title, and the cool thing is they illustrate each habit with a story. Kind of a cautionary tale vibe.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So we've got arrogance, dishonesty, selfishness, lack of empathy, gossiping, criticism, manipulation, negativity, unreliability, jealousy, interrupting, being judgmental, overly competitive, entitlement, and even rudeness.
Wow, that's quite a list. Covers a lot of ground there.
It does. So let's jump right in with arrogance. They start with this guy, Mark, who's obviously talented, but just can't stop bragging about every little thing he does.
Oh, I know the type.
Right. And instead of impressing his colleagues, they just end up feeling annoyed and start avoiding him.
Totally. And it's like, that's where the difference between confidence and arrogance is so important.
Yeah.
Like, think of someone you admire for their confidence.
Yeah.
They don't have to boast, right? Their actions, their work, it speaks for itself. Arrogance, on the other hand, it's often masking insecurity, like this desperate need for external validation.
And it can be exhausting to be around, right?
Absolutely.
So speaking of shaky foundations, let's move on to dishonesty. They've got this story about Sarah, who tells a seemingly small lie about a project at work.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, and it ends up totally destroying her team's trust in her.
Makes you think about all the research on trust, like how our brains actually reward us for being trustworthy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with oxytocin. It's like a biological incentive to connect with others. But when that trust is broken, it triggers our stress response. So dishonesty, it's not just an ethical issue. It literally affects our well-being.
That's fascinating.
And once trust is gone, it's so hard to rebuild. It takes a lot of time and consistent effort.
Really is a long game.
Totally.
So dishonesty kind of ties into selfishness, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We meet Emma, who, during movie nights with friends, always insists on choosing the movie.
Oh, classic Emma.
Yeah. And while it seems harmless on the surface, over time, it builds resentment.
You know, what's interesting, though, is that Emma's behavior might not even be intentional.
Right.
It could be rooted in anxiety, or maybe she just doesn't know how to assert herself in a healthier way.
That's a good point. It's like sometimes these habits aren't about being intentionally mean. Sometimes it's more about lack of self-awareness.
Exactly. And that leads us to another tough one, lack of empathy. The article tells this story about Kevin, who basically fails to connect with a friend who's going through a tough time.
Oof, yeah. We all need support sometimes.
For sure.
Right.
And while some people are just naturally empathetic, it's actually a skill you can develop.
You think so?
Absolutely. Active listening, putting aside your own judgments, really trying to understand the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree with it.
It's about making that connection.
Yes.
On the flip side, there's gossiping, which can really damage trust, right?
Yeah.
We've got Linda, who loves to spread rumors, and, well, people stop trusting her with their secrets.
You're just surprised there. Gossiping just breeds negativity and ends up hurting everyone involved.
And I've always thought it stems from insecurity,
Oh, for sure. Like focusing on others' flaws so you don't have to look at your own.
trying to feel better by tearing others down.
Exactly.
Speaking of negativity, how about constant criticism?
Oh, that's a good one.
There's James, who constantly nitpicks his partner's cooking. And even though he claims he means well, it creates this distance in their relationship.
It reminds me of that magic ratio idea.
Was that?
Apparently, for relationships to thrive, you need at least 5 positive interactions for every negative one. So even if James's criticism is constructive, if it's not balanced with enough positive feedback, it's going to backfire.
It's about finding that right balance.
Totally.
Okay, switching gears a bit, let's talk manipulation. The article highlights Sophie, who befriends Alex just to get access to his professional network.
Oh, using people for personal gain. Classic.
Yeah, no surprise, their friendship implodes.
And it goes against one of the most fundamental principles of healthy relationships. Authenticity.
Right, you can't build genuine connections if you're not being genuine yourself.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to negativity in general. We've got Mia, whose constant complaining and pessimism bring everyone down.
It's like emotional vampires sucking the joy out of the room.
And while everyone has bad days, it's so important to remember that our attitude can be contagious.
I think it's about choosing to focus on solutions instead of just dwelling on problems.
I love that.
And then there's unreliability. We meet Noah, who constantly cancels plans last minute until, well, his friends just stop inviting him places.
Ouch.
It's like that boy who cried wolf situation. People stop believing you, even when you're being sincere.
So true. It's about respecting others' time and honoring your commitments, big or small.
Absolutely.
Okay, next up, we've got jealousy, which can be a real relationship killer. Lily gets a new car and is super excited about it, but her friend Emma makes all these jealous comments that just strain their friendship.
Jealousy is a natural human emotion, right?
Yeah.
But it's how we handle it that matters. Instead of letting it poison things, we can try to reframe it, like asking, what can I learn from this person's success? Or how can this inspire me to achieve my goals?
Turn it into something positive. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about interrupting. I feel like this is a big one for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
The article talks about Ryan, who's constantly interrupting his classmates during discussions.
Making them feel unheard, disrespected. It boils down to a lack of self-awareness and active listening. Like, you got to wait your turn, respect the flow of conversation, actually pay attention to what others are saying.
And then there's being judgmental. Karen mocks her friend for loving video games and, well, it creates this rift between them.
It all comes back to tolerance and open-mindedness, right?
Yeah. We all have different values and interests.
Yeah.
Judging someone for something that brings them joy, that's a surefire way to push them away.
Acceptance is key. Just accepting people for who they are, even if you don't totally understand them.
Makes sense.
And then there's being overly competitive.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Tom is obsessed with outperforming everyone at the gym,
Whoa.
to the point where he isolates himself.
That's sad. It's like there's healthy competition, which can be motivating,
Right?
and then there's unhealthy competition, which is just destructive.
Totally. You can strive for excellence without putting others down. Celebrate their wins, too.
Exactly. And I think the last one we've got is entitlement. Anna throws a fit because she demands special treatment at a cafe.
Ugh, I hate that. It's like they think they're better than everyone else.
Right. Entitlement really boils down to a lack of humility, forgetting that we're all part of a larger community.
And that brings us to our final habit, rudeness. Jake just consistently disrespects those around him, ignoring greetings, refusing to hold doors.
You'd think common courtesy wouldn't be so uncommon, but
It really is about those small acts of kindness and respect. A smile, a thank you. They make a huge difference.
couldn't agree more. Well, we've covered a lot today. From arrogance to rudeness, we've explored 15 habits that can really impact our relationships.
And it's been quite a journey, but honestly, the real takeaway for me is that we all have the power to choose how we interact with the world.
I love that.
We can be the kind of people who build others up or the kind who tear them down.
It's about being mindful and making conscious choices. And on that note, here's a final thought for you all. If these 15 habits affect our personal relationships, how might they be affecting our work lives, our goals, our overall well-being? Something